Alright, I'm finally back with another upload. I actually had this battle right before I left for my trip, but I decided to save it so I could upload a battle right when I got back. But anyway, we're both going to lead off with Rotoms in this match, kind of like my last battle, but I'm actually going to have a really bad start at the beginning of this match because I go for a giant over prediction here. I thought he might Scarf Volt Switch out to his Ferrothorn, so I went for an HP Fire hoping to catch it on the switch and 2-hit KO it, but instead he just stays in and goes for a Thunderbolt, and it even paralyzes me, so that means that my Rotom is pretty much useless for the rest of the match. And of course I hit him with HP Fire, but that does practically nothing because Rotom's pretty bulky and it's resistant, of course. So at this point we're both going to switch out of our Rotoms and go to Grass types, and this is pretty much our main way of dealing with each other's bulky waters. So I've got a Celebi, he's got a Virizion, he's going to set up a Swords Dance, which is actually the less common set, I think. So I went for a Psychic. It's probably my most powerful move on this set, so it's going to do a pretty good amount of damage to Virizion, considering it's super effective and stab. And I know at this point that something's going to take a lot of damage on my team, so since Rotom is paralyzed, I decided that it's probably going to be the least useful member, and I'm just going to decide to sacrifice it to his close combat. Basically, I need to sacrifice something so I can get my Terrakion in, because I don't really have anything else that can outspeed his Virizion. Scizor's Bullet Punch could work at this point since he's at -1 defense from the close combat drop, but I didn't really want to use Scizor because Terrakion's a lot more threatening. He doesn't have as many fighting resists as he has steel resists, so he doesn't really have that good of a way to deal with Terrakion. So anyway, I am going to be able to outspeed him because I am Scarfed, and he's going to go back into his Rotom at this point. Unfortunately, I can't KO him with close combat, so I'm just going to switch back out to Celebi. I usually experiment with Psychic and Recover on this set, and I actually wish I had Recover in this match because he makes a pretty good prediction, goes for HP Fire, and I'm not going to be able to recover as much without an actual dedicated recovery move. So at this point I'm pretty much relying on Giga Drain, but it's okay in some matches. And anyway, I'm predicting the switch because he's going to switch out in fear of a Grass Stab, so I just set up a Nasty Plot as he goes to his Ferrothorn, and it turns out that that over prediction at the beginning was pretty much useless anyway, because I'm just going to be able to KO his Ferrothorn at this point anyway. +2 Nasty Plot HP Fire is definitely going to be able to KO that, especially since it's quad super effective. So I got rid of his Ferrothorn, which is pretty good because that means that he won't be able to stack up any spikes against me. He's going to go into his Kyurem now, and obviously I can't deal with that because I'm going to have to deal with a possible Blizzard. So I'm just going to switch into Tyranitar. I know that Kyurem usually has Focus Blast as well, but it's pretty shaky in accuracy, and I wanted to get up Sandstorm because it helps a lot of my sweepers on this team. So anyway, I switch into the Ice Beam, take it pretty nicely. Even though I haven't put as many bulk in special defense EVs as I have now, he still manages to take it pretty well. And at this point, I actually stay in and decide to go for the Stealth Rock. I'm a little surprised that he didn't go for the Focus Blast. Either he doesn't have it or he didn't want to risk it, but he actually switches out to his Scizor. And I don't know if it's Swords Dance or Choice Band yet, so the best initial switch in is going to be Gliscor. And I switch into a Bug Bite, which is definitely more of a Swords Dance move, so I'm predicting that this is probably not the Choice Band set. And I'm going to switch out at this point and go to Celebi. I thought that he might switch out to his Rotom, but he actually sets up a Swords Dance, which is going to make things a little bit problematic, but I am EV'd to outspeed most Scizor, so I'm going to be able to KO him with an HP Fire, and I'm just going to go for that right now. I'm kind of surprised that he didn't switch out at this point either, because I've definitely revealed HP Fire when I KO'd his Ferrothorn, so I'm not exactly sure why he didn't switch out his Scizor and maybe like go to Kyurem or something, because I think it's fairly good in special bulk. So anyway, he's going to have his Scizor KO'd, and he's going to go into Kyurem now. Not really sure why he didn't switch it in directly, but maybe he just didn't want to take the Stealth Rock damage or something. But anyway, I'm not going to switch to Tyranitar this time. I'm actually going to go to Scizor because I thought he might Focus Blast on the switch, and since this is specially defensive Scizor, it's going to be able to take that a lot better. He actually goes for a second Ice Beam though, which is even better because of I'm resistant, of course. So Scizor is going to be able to threaten him a lot. I've got Superpower and Bullet Punch, and of course the latter is priority, so I'm going to be able to threaten him out with a lot of super effective attacks. And I'm actually going to go for the Superpower because I saw that he had a Heatran on Team Preview, so I was thinking that he might switch it in at this point, and even if he didn't, it would have done a lot of damage to his Kyurem, probably KO'd actually. So I do manage to catch his Heatran on the switch with Superpower, and I pop his Air Balloon, which is sort of useful. I don't really have that many ground-type moves on this team, but I suppose it's pretty useful overall. So I'm going to go into Tyranitar now. Tyranitar, I usually play him more like a Special Wall. He can sort of attack, but he doesn't do that much damage. I usually use him just as a switch-in into kind of like a special sponge for most attacks, especially Latios and Latias. So he's going to go for an Earth Power, and I am actually not running that many attack EVs, so I was hoping I could finish him off with Crunch, but that's not going to KO actually, so it just barely misses out on the KO. Kind of wish that I was able to KO him in one hit, but yeah, that's really unfortunate. So he goes for a Flamethrower, and I'm not exactly sure why he didn't go for a second Earth Power, unless he thought I was going to switch out, but I'm not really sure what he thought I was switching out to anyway. So I'm going to be able to finish him with the second Crunch, of course. He's going to go into his Rotom now, and of course that's going to be able to do a lot of damage to Tyranitar. But I'm actually going to stay in on the trick and go for a Crunch. The main reason that I wanted to risk Tyranitar to a possible Hydro Pump was because I've already gotten rid of his Heatran, so I don't really have to worry as much about Kyurem because Scizor deals with it pretty nicely as well. So I don't really need Tyranitar as much to sponge special attacks. And I get off that Crunch, which is going to do a pretty sizable amount of damage to Rotom. I am going to have to sacrifice Tyranitar to Hydro Pump the next turn, but it's not too bad because I've gotten his Rotom down to really low health already. So I'm going to go into Celebi now just to finish him off, and initially I thought that I outsped, so I just wanted to get off a nasty plot, but I forgot that he was actually Scarfed, which means he's running max speed, because Celebi is designed to outspeed the standard Rotom, but not max speed Choice Scarf variants. So I get off a nasty plot, and due to the bulk investment that I put onto this set, I am going to be able to survive a couple of HP Fires anyway, so it's not exactly too bad. Even his HP Fire next turn isn't going to KO me, and I'm going to be able to recover a little bit amount of damage from Giga Drain. I mean, it's not that much because his Rotom's at pretty low health already, but I am going to be able to get me out of Sandstorm range, so that's not going to KO me. Especially since I have leftovers also, so I'm going to be at really low health, but at least I'm going to still be able to survive for another attack. So he's going to send out his next Pokemon, which is going to be Kyurem, and I'm actually going to be able to KO at this point. The main reason I wanted to set up a nasty plot was so I could KO him with a +2 Psychic, but I actually didn't know Kyurem's base speed at this point, so for some reason I thought Celebi would KO, not really sure why. I guess he goes for a Focus Blast hoping to catch Scizor on the switch, but of course that's pretty much useless because I'm just going to be able to KO him anyway, and that is going to wrap up the game 4-0.